Hi guys, welcome back to Gardening Suburbia. I'm Amanda and today I'm going to get my tomatoes trellised. These behind me are indeterminate tomatoes, so I'm going to go ahead and prune them a little bit. I currently have a bamboo teepee set up, although it is not quite strong enough for the amount of tomatoes I have planted in this area. So I'm just going to use twine to wrap around the base and tie up to the top stake that I'm going to be using. And as I go, I will go ahead and prune off suckers and whatnot. Just because they are indeterminate tomatoes, that means they will keep producing as long as they are healthy and not disease-ridden. Unlike determinate tomatoes, where they only grow a set amount of fruit, these will continue to grow fruit along the main leader stems as long as you care for them. Okay, so for this project, I purchased these 6-foot stakes. I'm going to be using these to be making a fence as well as the teepee trellising system I'm going to be using. I have twine, as well as I got some of these tomato clips. I've never used these before, so we'll see how this works out. But I've seen other people use them with success. We'll see how it goes. They are not biodegradable, so I will have to be wary of them ending up in my garden bed for next season. I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the tags on all of these stakes, just because I don't want them falling off into my soil. This is going to be my first year trellising tomatoes. Last season I only grew 3 Roma tomato plants. It being my first gardening season, I didn't go all that crazy, but this year kind of went a little overboard with the different varieties that I purchased. So with my indeterminates, I'm going to be doing this teepee style of trellising, and then my determinate tomatoes, I am just using a tomato cage, which this is my first year using tomato cages. Those guys I am not going to be pruning. I'm just going to see how many tomatoes I can get off of them. Last season with my Romas, I ended up, I think it was maybe a month and a half before the end of the growing season, I had squirrels that were getting into my garden bed and destroying all of the fruit that was being produced by the Romas. And I ended up ripping them out because they had been shredded to bits. So I got a shorter tomato season last year. I'm hoping this year's going to be a little bit different. So before I go ahead and get my tomatoes trellised up, I want to show you exactly what is going on in my garden right now without having these trellised up. Because these are indeterminate tomatoes, they're going to spread and sprawl and just keep growing throughout the season for as long as pests and disease allow them to. So we come to the back part of the bed. It's a jungle. They are starting to grow into my beans, my onions, and my garlic. And this plant right here, it's blocking a lot of the sun for these other plants down here, as well as it's restricting airflow. And with all of your plants, you really need to have good airflow. This keeps disease and pest damage down. As you can see, some of my bean plants down here have started to see some of the effects of having some pest damage. So I'm not quite sure what is getting at them. But we need to get this fixed so that all of these plants have a little more room to grow. So I think I've changed my mind on what exactly I want to do. Instead of doing like a teepee, I'm going to do more of a box-like structure, just because I have 2 rows of tomatoes. I have the front row and then I have my back row. I do have, I think they are 4-foot stakes that I'm using for my beans, but since I took out these bamboo stakes, I can go ahead and swap those out for the other 4-foot wooden stakes. And that way I can have a structure that will support both rows of the tomatoes. We'll see how this works. Accidentally broke this one. I'm gonna go grab my screwdriver and some wood screws and screw these guys together just so they are extra stable. So I'm gonna put a cross beam between these 2 stakes that go front to back. And then I will put another beam that goes this way. I'm going to go ahead and drill pilot holes just so it's a little easier. And I think I'm going to use the wooden stake that I broke. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my cross beams that connect these 2 using my 6-foot stakes. Now that I've got my base frame set up, I'm going to go ahead and get my twine and start wrapping around the bottom of the plant stem up. And then I'll go ahead and prune back my tomato plants as I see needed. So I apologize, this is going to be a little awkward of a way to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how I'm trellising these back tomatoes. So as you guys can see, with those tomatoes trellised up, my garlic, onions, and beans have much more space to be growing, as well as more sun, more air, and these are all good things for healthy plants. Finishing off my trellising system, I'm going to go ahead and prune off any of the larger suckers, and I'm just going to leave a few of the main leader stems. Well, it looks like I already left 2 of these guys plus maybe a few suckers. Because these are indeterminate, they do produce more than just a set amount of fruit. I want to go ahead and get a ton of tomatoes this year because I am planning on, or my goal is to go ahead and can a lot of tomato sauce, tomato paste, salsas, and last year I only had those 3 tomato plants, and this year, as you can see, I have a lot more. So big goals. I have more than I need, and it's okay if some of those die. I may end up putting some of these suckers in a jar of water and then going ahead and letting them grab roots. And then if I need to, I can go ahead and replant these as a second wave. Sadly, I accidentally took this guy off and he had a little tomato friend on him. And it looked like he was a fasciated blossom, just because it looks like there was more than one flower on there. That would have been a very fluted tomato, very pretty, but I'm sure there are more of them in here somewhere, and I'm sure I will miss pruning off the fasciated blossoms. But let's go ahead and prune this plant back here and then finish up so I can go in and enjoy the rest of my night. Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.